The office was so quiet that Emily could hear the ticking of the cheap wall clock above the glass door. Each second hammered into her ears like the countdown of a bomb. She sat across the wide desk, her palms sweating, her chest tight, as if the air itself had turned against her. On the polished oak surface between them lay a sheet of glossy paper, and on that paper was the photograph that had unraveled her life in less than 24 hours. "Emily," Mr. Harris said, his voice heavy, almost rehearsed, like someone reading lines from a script he wished he didn't have to perform. "You know the company's policies regarding public image. This photo has been circulated online," and he hesitated, adjusted his glasses, then sighed. "I'm afraid we can't keep you on board." Emily's throat went dry. She opened her mouth to protest, but no words came out. Instead, her eyes locked on the image. It showed her at a bar, her head tilted back, her mouth open in laughter, while a man she barely knew leaned in too close, his hand hovering at her waist. The flash of someone's phone had frozen them in a split second that made it look far worse than reality. She wasn't drunk. She wasn't being reckless. She was simply caught off guard at a friend's birthday party. But the photo told a different story, one the internet had already devoured. "It's not what it looks like," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Please, Mr. Harris, you know me. You know I would never." "I believe you," he interrupted, his tone softer for a moment. "But belief isn't enough. Clients are calling. The board is furious. Your name is all over Twitter, LinkedIn, and God knows where else. We can't risk the reputation hit." A cold wave of shame crashed over her. Her entire career, built from years of late nights and sacrificed weekends, was dissolving into nothing because of a snapshot taken in bad lighting by a stranger with no context. She thought of the project she had just finished, a multi-million-dollar campaign she had poured her soul into. None of it mattered now. She was no longer Emily Carter, rising star in the PR department. She was Emily Carter, the girl in that photo. Mr. Harris slid a manila envelope across the desk. "This has the paperwork. HR will walk you through the rest." His eyes softened again. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry." But sorry didn't stop the floor from crumbling beneath her. Emily walked out of the office like someone moving through water, each step heavy, muffled, unreal. Her coworkers stared as she passed. Some avoided her gaze, others whispered behind their hands. The photo had already done its rounds here, too. She felt their eyes on her back, branding her with silent judgment, until she pushed through the revolving doors and into the sharp autumn air of Manhattan. Outside, the city roared on as if nothing had happened. Taxis honked, vendors shouted, digital billboards flashed with advertisements brighter than the sun. Emily stood frozen on the sidewalk, her envelope clutched to her chest like a shield. She wanted to scream, to tell the world the truth, but the truth had no place in a viral narrative. Her phone buzzed again. Another notification. Another tag. Another stranger's comment about her morals, her professionalism, her life. She turned it face down in her hand and swallowed the rising lump in her throat. Only yesterday, she had been someone. Today, she was a headline. The subway ride back to her apartment in Brooklyn was a blur. She couldn't recall the faces she passed, the announcements that echoed through the tunnels, or the metallic screech of the train against the rails. All she remembered was the suffocating silence inside her, broken only by the vibration of her phone in her bag. She didn't dare look at it. When she finally stepped into her one-bedroom apartment, she kicked the door shut and dropped the envelope onto the kitchen counter. It landed with a dull thud that felt like the punctuation mark of her career. Her blazer slid off her shoulders as she slumped into the couch. Her cat, Daisy, padded over and leapt gracefully on her lap. Emily stroked her absent-mindedly, staring at the ceiling as tears welled in her eyes. She thought of her mother, who had worked 2 jobs to help put her through NYU. Her mother had bragged to neighbors about her daughter's success at the firm. How could Emily tell her now that it was over? Not because of incompetence, but because of a lie captured in pixels. Her mind rewound to last night. The bar had been loud, crowded with bodies and laughter. Her best friend Claire had begged her to come out, promising it would be a simple birthday toast. Emily had gone reluctantly, telling herself she would stay for one drink. She had been nursing a gin and tonic when one of Claire's acquaintances, Michael, leaned closer to ask her something over the music. She remembered laughing at a joke she barely heard. Then a flash. That was it. That was the moment that had destroyed her. She should have known better, she told herself now. She worked in PR. She understood perception was everything. But knowing didn't stop the tears from spilling down her cheeks, hot and relentless. Her phone buzzed again. This time, she couldn't resist. She unlocked it and scrolled. The photo was everywhere. A grainy screenshot of her laughing with that stranger had been cropped, filtered, captioned. PR manager caught getting cozy at bar while representing major brand. One blog called her unprofessional. Another said she was reckless. Twitter threads speculated about who the man was. LinkedIn posts preached about ethics in corporate culture, using her as an example. The worst part was the comments from people she didn't even know. Strangers decided she was careless, immoral, unworthy of her position. One wrote, "This is why women can't be trusted in leadership." Another added, "What a disgrace. Imagine representing a company like that." Her hands shook as she tossed the phone aside. The world had judged her in less than 12 hours. No trial, no chance to defend herself. Just one photo and 1,000 assumptions. By midnight, Emily still hadn't moved from the couch. Daisy curled up at her side, purring softly, as if trying to heal wounds invisible to the eye. Emily closed her eyes, but instead of sleep, memories came. Memories of how hard she had worked to get here. The unpaid internships where she had stayed long after everyone else left, just to prove herself. The endless networking events, smiling until her cheeks hurt, pitching herself over and over to people who barely remembered her name. The weekends sacrificed to write proposals no one asked her to write, just so she could show initiative. She had clawed her way up from nothing. And now, a stranger with a camera had taken it all away. But beneath the despair, a spark of anger flickered. Why should she let them define her with one image? Why should she let gossip and assumptions erase years of effort? She sat up, wiping her face with the back of her hand. If one photo could ruin her, maybe another could save her. She didn't know how yet. She didn't know when. But she knew one thing. She would not be remembered as the girl in that bar. She would find a way to tell her story, on her own terms. And that determination, fragile but fierce, was the only thing that kept her from breaking completely as the city outside slept and the clock ticked mercilessly toward morning. The morning after losing her job, Emily woke to the harsh glow of sunlight cutting through her blinds and the persistent buzz of her phone. For a moment, in the fog of half-sleep, she thought it was just another workday. She reached out instinctively, expecting emails from her team, meeting reminders, and the usual barrage of notifications that defined her mornings. But instead of neatly color-coded calendar alerts, her screen displayed chaos. Dozens of messages from friends, acquaintances, even people she hadn't spoken to in years. Some sympathetic, some cruel, and then the comments, hundreds of them. Strangers dissecting her life as if she were a character in a drama written for their amusement. Her stomach turned. She tossed the phone aside and pressed her palms into her eyes. Reality hit again. She was unemployed, humiliated, and trending for all the wrong reasons. Daisy padded softly across the bed and nudged her head against Emily's arm, as if urging her to get up. "Yeah, I know," Emily whispered, stroking her. "I can't hide forever." She dragged herself into the kitchen, brewed coffee with trembling hands, and sat at the counter, staring at the untouched manila envelope from yesterday. Inside were termination papers, a severance check, and a polite note from HR reminding her of confidentiality agreements. The envelope felt like a gravestone. Emily opened her laptop, though every part of her screamed not to. Her homepage had been set to a news site, and there it was, her face on the sidebar, attached to yet another article. PR manager's wild night sparks corporate scandal. The headline twisted her stomach. She clicked, even though she knew better. The article was filled with speculation, not facts. They didn't care who she was. They cared about clicks. Her inbox was worse. Clients she had once charmed and impressed had written terse messages, severing ties. One even wrote, "We trusted you with our image. Clearly, we made a mistake." Emily shut the laptop so hard Daisy leapt off the counter in alarm. By noon, Claire showed up. Her best friend entered with a tote bag full of croissants and iced coffee, the unofficial New Yorker's emergency kit. "I came as soon as I could," Claire said, wrapping her arms around Emily. "I'm so sorry this is happening. It's insane." Emily hugged her back, but pulled away quickly. "It's not your fault." "It kind of is," Claire admitted, guilt flashing across her face. "I dragged you to that stupid party. I thought it would be fun, not this." Emily shook her head. "It would have happened anyway. Someone was looking for drama, and I was the easiest target." They sat together on the couch. Claire handed her the iced coffee. Emily took a sip, grateful for the normalcy. "You know what's insane?" Claire said. "People don't even know the guy in the photo. He's nobody. He's literally just a friend of friend. And yet everyone's acting like you were caught having an affair with a CEO or something." Emily exhaled sharply. "That's how it works. A picture shows what people want to see. They fill in the blanks, and suddenly it becomes the truth." Claire leaned in, determination hardening her tone. "Then we need to fight back. Show them the real truth. There were other photos taken that night. Maybe one of them clears this up." The suggestion planted a tiny seed of hope in Emily's chest. She hadn't thought about that. If one picture could destroy her, maybe another could redeem her. But then doubt crushed it. It doesn't matter. The damage is done. The internet doesn't care about explanations. They only care about outrage. Claire reached for her hand. "Emily, you've built your entire career on controlling narratives. If anyone can flip this, it's you." Emily wanted to believe her. But believing meant hope, and hope hurt when it collapsed. The next day, she took the train to Queens to visit her mother. Patricia Carter lived in the same brick apartment complex where Emily had grown up. The hallway smelled faintly of old cooking oil and laundry detergent, familiar and grounding. Her mother opened the door with worried eyes. "Emily." One look, and Emily crumbled. She collapsed into her mother's arms, the dam of her composure breaking. "They fired me," she sobbed, "over a picture. A stupid picture." Patricia stroked her hair, her voice steady and warm. Sweetheart, we'll figure it out. You're stronger than this." Emily pulled back, wiping her face. "Mom, everyone thinks I'm some kind of party girl. Like I don't take my work seriously. Years of effort, and now people see me as a joke." Her mother cupped her face. "People will talk, Emily. They always do. What matters is what you know about yourself. But in my industry, perception is reality," Emily said bitterly. Her mother sighed. "Then you'll change the perception. You've always been good at that. Remember when your high school teacher accused you of plagiarizing because your essay was too good? You stood up and proved her wrong. You didn't let that define you. Don't let this define you either." Her mother's faith steadied her, even if only for a moment. Over the next week, Emily spiraled between despair and determination. Some days, she couldn't get out of bed. Other days, she spent hours combing through social media, trying to track down anyone who had been at the bar that night, searching desperately for photos that might prove her innocence. Claire helped, sending messages to friends of friends. Most replies were useless, but one evening, Claire texted her a screenshot. "Found this. Might help." It was another photo from the same night, taken just seconds after the infamous one. In this picture, the man's hand was clearly nowhere near her waist. Emily was laughing, but the angle showed she was leaning back, not forward. It was obvious she wasn't being cozy. Emily's breath caught. "Oh my God. It's not perfect," Claire warned, "but it shows the truth." That first photo was misleading. Emily stared at it, hope flickering again. But with hope came fear. Could she really fight back? Could she really change the narrative? She didn't know yet. But for the first time since everything collapsed, she had something to hold on to. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to start. Emily had stared at the second photo for hours. She kept it open on her laptop, zooming in and out, memorizing every detail, the angle, the lighting, the way the man's hand was nowhere near her. It was proof, or at least the closest thing she'd had to proof since the nightmare began. But proof wasn't enough. She knew that better than anyone. In public relations, perception was the real battlefield. Facts were weapons, but emotion was victory. People didn't want information. They wanted a story. If she wanted her life back, she would have to give them one. On Monday morning, she put on a blazer for the first time since she was fired. It was silly. She had nowhere to go, no office waiting, but she needed the armor. She sat at her small desk, Daisy perched on the windowsill, and began drafting. Not emails. Notre résumé. A statement. She wrote and rewrote for hours, the words never quite right. Too defensive. Too emotional. Too cold. She was crafting not just a rebuttal, but her redemption arc. And she had to get perfect. Claire called in the afternoon. So, are we doing this? I'm working on it, Emily said, her voice flat with exhaustion. But if I post this photo, I need to control the rollout. Timing. Platform. Context. You're acting like it's a campaign, Claire teased gently. Emily closed her eyes. Because it is. It's the campaign of my life. That night, Emily scrolled through her old contacts list. Former colleagues. Journalists she'd once pitched to. Influencers she'd partnered with on past campaigns. People she hadn't spoken to in months, maybe years. She hesitated, her finger hovering over the keys. What if they thought she was pathetic? What if they ignored her? But what if they didn't? She typed her first message. Hey, it's Emily Carter. I know you've seen the headlines. I just want you to know the truth. There's another photo. It changes everything. She hit send before she could lose her nerve. Then another. And another. By midnight, she had sent 20 messages. Only 3 people responded. 2 politely declined to get involved. But one, an independent journalist named Rachel, who ran a blog exposing corporate hypocrisy, wrote back almost immediately. Emily, I've been following your story. Send me what you have. I'll listen. Emily's heart pounded. She attached the second photo, added her draft statement, and pressed send. The next morning, Rachel called. Her voice was calm, but sharp, the kind of tone that cut through excuses. This photo is good, Rachel said. It shows the other side, but it's not enough by itself. People will say it's fake, or cropped, or staged. You need more. More, Emily asked, panic creeping in. Context, Rachel replied. Who took the photo? What happened before and after? Can anyone back you up? You can't just defend yourself. You need to attack the narrative. Shift it from reckless employee caught partying to innocent woman destroyed by a misleading photo. Make them the villains. Emily leaned back in her chair, Rachel's words echoing. She had spent her entire career controlling narratives for companies. Now, for the first time, she had to do it for herself. Okay, she whispered. Let's fight. Over the next week, Emily worked like she had never worked before. She tracked down witnesses from that night, messaging anyone tagged in Claire's photos, asking if they remembered what really happened. Some ignored her. Some dismissed her. But one, Jasmine, a photographer who had been at the bar, replied with a treasure trove. I actually took a bunch of pictures that night, Jasmine wrote. Didn't think much of it, but you might want these. Attached were nearly a dozen shots, each capturing moments around the infamous laugh. In one, Emily was clearly talking to Claire, not the man. In another, she was standing apart, her drink still full. And then the one that mattered most, the man leaning toward her, but the next frame showed him stepping back, embarrassed, while Emily laughed it off. Emily's hands shook as she flipped between them. Together, they told the truth. She sent them all to Rachel. This, Rachel said, on her voice. This changes everything. The story broke 2 days later. Rachel's blog published a long piece titled, The Photo That Lied, How a Misleading Snapshot Destroyed a Woman's Career. It laid out the timeline, the evidence, the toxic speed of internet judgment. It included Emily's statement, polished, professional, vulnerable without being weak. I am not the woman in that photo, the statement read. I am the woman in the dozens of other photos that show the truth. I am the woman who worked tirelessly for my company, only to be erased by a single false narrative. This isn't just my story. It's a warning about how quickly we tear each other down without asking questions. The second photo was there. So were Jasmine's shots. So was the truth. Within hours, the article exploded. Some people doubled down, unwilling to admit they'd been wrong. But others, thousands of others, shared the piece with outrage. The tide began to turn. Wow, we judge her too fast. This is why cancel culture is dangerous. She deserves an apology. For the first time in weeks, Emily's name wasn't trending with disgust. It was trending with sympathy. That night, Emily sat on her couch, scrolling through comments with tears streaming down her face. Not all were kind. Not all forgave her. But enough did that she felt the balance shift. Claire popped a champagne bottle in her kitchen. To the fight, she declared, pouring them each a glass. Emily raised hers, her hand still trembling. To the truth. They clinked glasses. The battle wasn't over. She knew that. But for the first time since her world collapsed, she felt like she had a chance. And Emily Carter was never one to waste a chance. The article had gone viral overnight. By morning, Emily's phone was buzzing so constantly it felt like it might burst into flames. Every news outlet seemed to be picking it up, online magazines, local TV stations, even podcasts. Her name was no longer paired with reckless or scandal. Now it appeared alongside words like misjudged, cancel culture, redemption. For the first time in weeks, Emily didn't feel like prey. She felt like she was finally holding the sword. But swords cut both ways. She was halfway through a bowl of cereal when the first email came in. From legal@harrisonper.com. Subject, cease and desist. Emily's spoon froze in midair. Her old company. She opened the email, her heart pounding. It accused her of defamation, of breaching confidentiality agreements, of damaging the firm's reputation with her false claims. They demanded she retract her statement and issue an apology, or face legal action. Her stomach dropped. Seconds later, her phone rang. It was Claire. Tell me you saw the article numbers. Claire burst out. It's everywhere, Em. People are actually. They're suing me. Emily interrupted, her voice hollow. What? They sent a cease and desist. They wanted to take everything down. There was a long silence on the other end. Then Claire's voice, steady but fierce. That's because they're scared. You're winning, and they know it. Emily wanted to believe her. But the thought of a courtroom battle, of lawyers dissecting her every move, made her hands shake. She wasn't a fighter. She was just trying to survive. But survival, she realized, might require more fight than she had ever imagined. Rachel called an hour later. They're bluffing, the journalist said flatly. If they drag you into court, they'll have to open their books. They'll have to admit they fired you without evidence. That's a PR disaster for them. Then why send the letter? Emily asked. To scare you quiet, Rachel replied. But Emily, you're not quiet anymore. Her words lit a fire in Emily's chest. For so long, she had let other people dictate the narrative. Maybe it was time she stopped reacting and started attacking. The counterattack began small. Emily drafted a thread on Twitter, carefully timed for the afternoon when engagement peaked. She posted the cease and desist letter, redacted, but clear enough to show the intimidation. Then she wrote, They tried to silence me once with a photo. Now they're trying again with threats. But I won't be quiet. The truth matters more than their fear. Within minutes, it exploded. The hashtag Emily Speaks began trending. Lawyers weighed in, calling the company's letter a scare tactic. Activists chimed in about corporate bullying. Ordinary people rallied behind her. She had been on the defensive for weeks. Now, finally, she was on offense. But victory was never clean. By evening, the trolls returned, louder and more vicious. Anonymous accounts flooded her mentions, accusing her of faking the second photo, of staging the evidence, of sleeping her way into her old job. One tweet cut deeper than the rest. She's just milking victimhood for fame. Watch, she'll get a book deal next. Emily slammed her laptop shut, tears pricking her eyes. The internet didn't care about nuance. For every person who believed her, another dismissed her as manipulative. Claire came over with takeout. Don't read the comments, she urged. That's easy to say, Emily snapped. But those comments are shaping what people believe about me. Claire set down the food and looked at her seriously. Then give them something stronger to believe in. The next day, Rachel called again. "I've got an idea, but it's risky." Emily braced herself. "Go on. Go public. Not just with photos and statements. With you. Do a live interview. Tell your story in your own voice. No edits, no filters. Just the truth." Emily's stomach twisted. A live interview meant exposure. No hiding behind carefully written posts. No chance to backtrack if she slipped up. "I don't know if I can," she admitted. Rachel's tone softened. "Emily, they've turned you into a symbol. But people don't connect with symbols. They connect with faces, voices, real emotion. If you want to win this, they need to see you." Emily closed her eyes. She thought of the photo, the laughter frozen into a weapon. For weeks, that had been her face to the world. A stranger's version of her. Maybe it was time to replace it with her own. "Okay," she whispered. "Let's do it." The interview was scheduled for Friday evening with a popular independent news channel on YouTube. Millions of subscribers. A live audience. No safety net. Emily spent the days leading up to it preparing. She rehearsed answers, wrote key points, practiced in front of her mirror until her voice no longer shook. But no matter how much she practiced, fear gnawed at her. The night of the broadcast, she sat in front of a ring light in her small apartment, the host's face smiling at her through the screen. Claire sat off camera, squeezing her hand. Daisy purred on the couch, oblivious to the storm. "Emily Carter," the host began, "thank you for joining us. The internet thinks it knows your story. Tonight, you get to tell it yourself. Let's start at the beginning." And Emily spoke. She told them about her career, her pride in her work, the night at the bar, the laugh that became a scandal. She showed the second photo, explained the context, revealed the intimidation tactics from her former company. She didn't cry, though her throat tightened more than once. She didn't raise her voice. She just told the truth, raw and unpolished. When it ended, the comments section flooded with reactions. "She's so genuine. I believe her. This could happen to anyone." For the first time, Emily felt like people weren't just talking about her. They were finally listening to her. But as the broadcast wrapped, her phone buzzed with a notification that made her blood run cold. A new post, a new photo, and this one threatened to undo everything. The interview had ended less than 15 minutes ago when Emily's phone buzzed. At first, she thought it was another flood of notifications, another wave of supportive messages and retweets. But this alert was different. It came from Claire. Check Twitter. Now, Emily's heart thudded as she opened the app. At the top of her feed, trending in bold letters, #new photo. Her blood ran cold. She tapped the hashtag, and there it was. Another picture of her from that same night at the bar, but this one was worse. It showed her leaning toward the man, her hand resting on his shoulder, his face close to hers. The angle made it look like they were about to kiss. Her stomach lurched. The caption attached to the photo read, "So much for her innocence. Guess she's not telling the whole truth." The comments were vicious. Knew she was lying. She played the victim card. Guess she really was reckless after all. The fragile ground Emily had built over the past week seemed to collapse beneath her. Claire rushed over within half an hour. She found Emily sitting on the couch, her laptop open to the cursed image, her face pale as paper. Listen to me," Claire said, gripping her shoulders. "This doesn't erase everything you've done. You still have the other photos, the witnesses. No one will care," Emily whispered. Her voice was hollow, defeated. "They'll just see this. One more picture to prove I'm exactly what they thought I was." Claire's eyes burned with frustration. "You can't let them win. That photo is out of context, too. Maybe you were leaning to hear him. Maybe." Emily cut her off. "It doesn't matter what really happened. Haven't you seen it by now? The truth doesn't matter. The first photo destroyed me. The second one saved me, barely. And now this one will finish me." Her hands trembled so hard she had to set the laptop down before she dropped it. By midnight, Emily's name was back in the headlines. Only this time, the tone had shifted again. The same outlets that had praised her redemption now ran pieces questioning her credibility. Contradictory images raised doubts about Emily Carter's story. She sat in the dark, her phone buzzing endlessly, and for the first time since this began, she felt like giving up. She thought about deleting her accounts, disappearing offline forever. Maybe she could move somewhere small, get a job at a coffee shop, live quietly. No more campaigns. No more reputations to defend. Just anonymity. But as the thought took root, another voice inside her rose up. A voice sharper than despair. If you disappear now, you prove them right. You become exactly what they say you are, a scandal. A joke. A footnote. Emily pressed her palms into her eyes, torn between exhaustion and defiance. The next morning, Rachel called. Don't panic, the journalist said, though her voice was tight. I've looked at the new photo. It's not what it seems. You can see in the background, your friend Claire is right there. You weren't kissing him. You were leaning so he could shout something in your ear. The angle is misleading again. Emily's chest tightened. But no one will care. Then make them care, Rachel snapped. You have to own it. Don't hide. Don't retreat. Use it. Show them how absurd it is that your entire life is being defined by freeze frames that don't tell the whole story. Emily was silent, her mind racing. Could she do that? Could she stand in front of the world and say, yes, that's me. Yes, it looks bad, but it isn't the truth. The thought terrified her, but also sparked something else, something like courage. 2 days later, she did something she never thought she'd do. She organized a press conference. Rachel helped her set it up at a small rented space downtown, with folding chairs and a podium. Claire sat in the front row, clutching her phone like a lifeline. Reporters filled the room, cameras flashing as Emily walked to the microphone. Her knees shook, but her voice was steady. I know you've all seen the new photo, she began, and I know what it looks like. But I'm not here to convince you of what it doesn't show. I'm here to ask why we keep letting moments like this define people's lives. The room fell silent. She went on, her words gathering strength. One picture shows me laughing. Another shows me leaning. Another shows me standing apart. Which one is the real me? None of them. All of them. Because people are more than snapshots. We are more than the seconds you choose to freeze. She held up the printed images, one by one, and dropped them onto the podium like pieces of evidence. These pictures nearly destroyed me, but they don't tell the truth. I do. And the truth is that I was fired, humiliated, and attacked online because it was easier to believe a lie than ask for the facts. That should terrify all of us, because if it happened to me, it can happen to anyone. Her voice shook then, not from fear but from anger. So I'm not running anymore. I'm not apologizing for existing in photos that don't tell the whole story. I'm here. I'm standing. And I refuse to be defined by your assumptions. The room erupted in questions, but Emily stepped back, her chest heaving. For the first time, she wasn't just defending herself. She was demanding to be seen. That night, clips of the press conference spread across the internet. Some mocked her. Some called it a publicity stunt. But others, thousands, then millions, shared her words with admiration. She's right. We judge too fast. This hit me hard. Cancel culture is toxic. She's braver than I'd ever be. For the first time, Emily realized she had shifted the story from her to something bigger. It wasn't just about a girl in a photo anymore. It was about everyone who had ever been reduced to a single moment. And though she still felt the weight of hate pressing on her for the first time, she also felt the power of something stronger. Hope. But even hope had limits. Later that week, she received a message from someone she never expected, the man from the photos. We need to talk. Emily stared at the screen, her pulse quickening. Because if he came forward, if he revealed his side of the story, it could either save her completely or destroy her once and for all. Emily stared at the message on her phone, her pulse racing. We need to talk. The sender's name was Michael Thompson, the man from the photos. The stranger whose face had been plastered beside hers for weeks, whose proximity had cost her everything. Her fingers hovered above the screen, unsure. Did she want to hear from him? What if he denied everything? What if he twisted the story? But what if he told the truth? After a long, shaky breath, she typed back. When and where? They met the next afternoon in a quiet cafe on the Lower East Side. The place was nearly empty, just the hiss of the espresso machine and soft jazz playing over the speakers. Emily arrived early, her nerves jangling. She kept rehearsing what to say, but her mind was blank. Then the door opened, and there he was, tall, dark hair, the same awkward half-smile she vaguely remembered from the bar. "Emily," he asked cautiously. She nodded. "Michael." They sat across from each other, the silence heavy until he finally spoke. "I saw your press conference," he said. "I didn't realize how bad it got. That photo ruined your life." Emily let out a bitter laugh. "Not just one. All of them. Out of context, weaponized. And you were in every single one." Michael looked down, guilt clouding his face. "I'm sorry. I should have said something sooner. I didn't think it was my place." Her frustration flared. "Not your place? My career is gone. My reputation is shredded. People think I'm a liar. And all this time, you stayed silent." His jaw tightened, but his voice was steady. "You're right. I should have spoken up. But I'm here now because I can't watch you fight this alone anymore. I remember that night. I know exactly what happened. And I'll tell anyone who asks." Emily froze. "You'll back me up?" "Yes," he said firmly. "You were never flirting with me. You laughed at a joke. I leaned in too close because it was loud, and someone snapped it at the wrong second. That's all. I'll put in writing. I'll go on record. Whatever you need." Relief crashed over her like a wave. For weeks, she had been screaming into the void, begging people to believe her. Now, at last, she had a witness. The truth wasn't just hers anymore. Rachel moved fast. Within 2 days, she had arranged an exclusive interview. Emily and Michael together. This time, it wasn't just Emily's voice. It was corroboration. Evidence. The missing piece. When the interview aired, viewers saw Michael sitting beside her, his hands folded, his voice calm but clear. "I was there," he said. "Emily didn't do anything wrong. Those photos are misleading." She was laughing at a joke. "That's it. The narrative that came out of it? Completely false." Emily added softly, "I lost everything because people believed the worst version of me. But here's the truth from both of us." The effect was immediate. Headlines shifted again. "New testimony clears Emily Carter." Hashtags turned in her favor. Hashtag believe Emily. Hashtag photos lie. Hashtag truth over trends. Even some of her harshest critics posted reluctant apologies. Not all, of course, some never would, but enough that Emily felt the balance finally, fully tilt. A week later, she received an email that made her hands tremble. From NYU School of Journalism subject, guest lecture invitation. They wanted her to speak to students about her experience, about media responsibility, about the dangers of snap judgments in the digital age. Emily read the email 3 times before it sank in. Not only was she no longer a scandal, she was becoming a voice, a warning, a teacher. She typed her acceptance with tears blurring her vision. The lecture hall was packed the day she spoke. Students filled every seat, professors lined the back, even a few reporters slipped in. Emily stood at the podium, her notes trembling in her hands. She took a deep breath. 3 months ago, she began, I was fired from my job because of a photo that lied. It told a story that wasn't true, and the world believed it. I lost my career, my reputation, and almost my will to keep fighting. But I learned something in the process. We are all one photo away from being misunderstood, and we need to be better than that. She spoke about responsibility, of media, of individuals, of everyone who clicks share without asking if the story is real. She spoke about resilience, about not letting lies define you. And she spoke about truth, not the kind frozen in pixels, but the kind you have to fight for. When she finished, the hall erupted in applause. Emily looked out at the faces before her and felt something she hadn't felt in months. Peace. That night, back in her apartment, she sat with Daisy curled on her lap and Claire by her side. Michael had even texted her again, checking in, offering friendship. Life wasn't perfect. She still didn't have her old job. She still bore the scars of everything she had endured. But she had her name back, her dignity, her future. Emily Carter had been destroyed by one photo, but she had been redeemed by another. And she knew now, more than ever, that no snapshot, no single moment could ever capture the whole of who she was. Because she was more than a picture. She was a story, and the story was far from over.